all. Just a quick heads up before we dive into this. This episode was originally recorded as a YouTube video, so you might hear me mention things like watching or in the comments, but don't worry. All the magic, insights, and burnout healing goodness still totally applies here in podcast form. So get comfy, take a deep breath, and let's get into it. Hi, welcome back to my channel. I'm Micah Weingarten, a certified traumatic informed burnout recovery coach. I'm here to help with some tips and tricks that you can incorporate into your life to help stave off overwhelm and come back from the brink of burnout. Today, I want to do something a little bit different and talk about an experience I had this past weekend that can be kind of life changing. I kept the whole thing really close to my chest. I didn't tell anybody I was doing this until after I did the thing. Let me explain. Last Saturday, I jumped out of a plane, a perfectly good plane, to experience finally skydiving. It's something that's been on my bucket list for a long time, and I was so excited to finally be making this dream a reality. So why I want to talk about this is to kind of share my experience and what I went through to get to this point and where I am now. In my last video, I explained that I usually take a week off from creating content once a month, just so that I have some space for myself to catch up with friends, take some time for myself, and just sort of do what I need to do to fill my cup. And what's interesting is I've sort of taken that, I've extended that kind of into this week. Now, here I am creating a video for you, but there was something about doing this big major thing that required I still slow down and reflect. So I'm telling you this to explain that I'm still processing. There's a lot of wisdom that's coming up from this experience, this amazing experience I had. So let me just get into it. I was at a retreat with my mastermind a couple of months ago, and one of the women in my mastermind has in her vision, her future self is someone who conquers her fear of heights by skydiving. Her future vision of herself is someone who jumps out of planes to skydive. And she talks about how she hit this really low point in her life where things weren't working out. Uh, her business wasn't taking off. She was almost out of money and she was losing the place where she was living, and so on and so forth. And the commitment she had made to herself and the universe was that she would be somebody who skydives, and she hadn't implemented this yet. So she set up the appointment. She did have to reschedule it a couple of times out of fear, just moving things around, working herself up to a state of readiness. And and then she finally jumped out of a plane, and then things in her life, it took some time, started to kind of come together, right? Her life started to pick up, some things started to land that needed to land. And so at the retreat, she was organizing a group of women to go jump out of a plane with her at the end of the retreat. And I wanted to go, but I already had other plans with another friend to connect with another friend on my way home. So I wasn't able to join the larger group, and I was so disappointed. But a couple of people were coming back to the area. And so I was like, hey, I'll drive down and we'll all jump out of a plane together. So I booked everything, and actually didn't book anything. I just put it in my calendar as something that I was going to do. And then a week before the jump, she was like, hey, make sure you call, put in your deposit, so on and so forth. I was never nervous about jumping out of a plane. I really looked forward to it. I am a thrill seeker. I love to do challenging stuff. I love to challenge myself. I love to try hard things. There are certain things that I'm a no to. Like, I don't think I'm ever going to go bungee jumping. It just doesn't appeal to me, right? There's things like that. It's not a fear issue. It just doesn't appeal to me. Just being on the end of an elastic band does not appeal to me. But skydiving always sounded exciting. So I was like, oh, there's nothing like I can't, heights don't really bother me in most contexts. I love flying. If you are ever on a seat next to me, you will see when we take off, I'm ready to go. I got my hands up in the air. I am excited. I love flying. There's so much gratitude I feel in my system, so much joy, so much happiness being on a plane and experiencing takeoff and landing. And I even love turbulence. There's just something so joyful about that. So that wasn't a problem for me. Jumping, the fear of like falling wasn't a problem for me. I didn't have any fear around it. And then I booked. I called and I confirmed and I put down my deposit, and then my brain started kicking in. And it was really interesting to notice my mind chatter as I was processing my anxiety about jumping out of a plane. One of the women we jumped with said that we're born with two fears: the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. Every other fear is taught. So it was interesting to watch how I processed what I had just committed, like actually committed to doing. I had always said I was going to jump out of a plane. I've been looking forward to this for years, but once it was real, it got real. Last week was the last week of my former position, the week leading up to the jump. And I happened to be on call rotation, it just landed that way. And it ended up being kind of a hectic week. And I was like, oh my gosh, what if something, oh, let me back up a little bit more. So I realized that I was going to be jumping out of a plane while I was on call. And I was like, oh shoot, I can't trade with any of my coworkers because I'm leaving the job. So what am I gonna do about that? And then literally like 15 minutes later, my boss said, hey, can you swap weekends with me? Because I have plans with my family while he's on call. I was like, that's perfect because I need somebody to cover for me while I fall out of a plane. And so that barrier was removed. And then the week was really hectic. I think the day that I left for San Diego, I was on an overnight call from like 8 p.m. I was like, I'm going to go to bed. I'm getting in bed at 8 p.m. And then my alarms go off and I have to jump on a call and be on that call until like 9 a.m. the following morning. Yes, a 13-hour middle of the night call. People in IT, sometimes that is the way. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is my last day. I was like so tired. I was like, maybe I won't be able to drive down there. And then I was not feeling good physically. Like I had this postnasal drip all week and a sore throat. And I was like, oh no, what if I have COVID? If I have COVID, I definitely can't jump out of a plane. I didn't have COVID. Postnasal drip because there's a lot of fires and particulate matter in the air. And I open the windows in the morning to try to enjoy like a couple hours of cool air despite the stuff in the air. Anyway, so there was just there and there was a few other examples. I can't recall now. But I was just like trying to find a way out, trying to I wasn't trying to, the back chatter in my mind was trying to find a way out of the situation. So it's interesting to observe that this was something that I deeply desired to do, and yet I was still resisting doing the thing because of fear. And in our little group chat, I mentioned to my friends, it's like, okay, like I'm really freaking out now after I put down my deposit. And she sent this video of Will Smith talking about his jump, and I'll link that down below for you to check out. And I didn't watch it. I sometimes am one of those people that needs to do a ton of research on something, but before I do the thing, but a lot of the time I really do better with less information, particularly when there's an element of fear. Because even when I have more information, something about that makes my logical mind kick in and team up with the fear, and they go to battle against my actual desire and will. So sometimes the less I know, the better. So I didn't watch the video. And coming up to the event, I had to drive. It's usually like a 4.5, 5 hour drive. It ended up being 8 hours because of traffic. And I had not slept. I was miserable. I was like, it's really interesting that I'm going from this state of feeling trapped and not able to make forward momentum, knowing that the next day I was going to be jumping out of an airplane. And I connected with my friend and we were kind of talking about it, and we're talking through it and everything. Now, this was going to be her fifth jump. This was going to be her fifth jump, and she was still terrified. She's still terrified going into every jump. It's because this is her process, like trying to come to terms with her fear. And so we're talking through it. And the next morning, we go to a workout class, we go to the farmer's market, we busy ourselves. It's cloudy. Our time got pushed back an hour, and we're talking through it. And I said, you know what? I'm realizing the more we talk about it, the more upset it's making me, the more stressed out it's making me. And so when we got back, I took a shower and got prepped for our jump. And I finally watched the Will Smith video. I bawled my eyes out because I was so excited seeing what he was going to do and knowing I was going to do that too, and share like this really amazing experience with Will Smith. Like, even though we're not together, like being able to do the same thing he was doing. So by the time I'm dressed and ready to go, the anxiety is gone. I don't feel anxious. I feel a little impatient, which maybe is a different kind of anxiety, but I felt ready. I felt ready to go. And we get on site and we sign in and find out it's going to be almost an hour before we can go. And I'm just like, oh, great. We're going to spin our wheels. We're all going to talk about how nervous we are. And I didn't get nervous at all. I felt very zen. I felt very excited, but I also felt very just calm. And I think it was my body's way of just preparing me for what was to come. It was really funny because two of the women were doing breath work, trying to moderate their nervous system in preparation for what we are about to do. And then we got suited up. I did get nervous. So one of my concerns was not about the parachute or anything like that. It was about me falling out of the harness. On roller coasters, when we have those the overhead brace, because I'm short and things aren't built for me, and I'm chubby, sometimes because there's no lap belt, I go up. I've never fallen out of a roller coaster, obviously, but it feels like I could because things just aren't designed for my body. I still go on roller coasters. I have no sense of self-preservation. I have no sense of self-preservation. Oh Oh my goodness. So, uh, my fear about skydiving was falling out of my harness. So when he's suiting me up, they suit you up. They don't cinch you down right away. And I was like, is this right? Is this tight enough? And he's like, are you asking me? Or are you telling me? I was like, no, I'm genuinely asking because that is my fear about falling out of the sky is I'm gonna slip out of my harness, which is form fitted to you for very obvious reasons. It is designed for your body. Everything is very adjustable. I remember there was a waistband and they put like a rubber band on it just to kind of keep the excess from flapping. And I was just, I'm being held together by rubber bands and duct tape, and that does not make me feel good in this moment, but it was fine. So I had paid for I call it the paparazzi. I paid for someone to like video my experience because it was my first time and I just wanted the whole thing captured. It was a little bit more, but that was okay. I'm so glad afterwards that I did that and have something I can share and rewatch myself of my experience. And I got suited up. And then our plane arrived, and all of my friends ran towards their plane with their tandem jumpers, and I got held back because mine was still prepping from his previous. So I was one of the last people on the plane, which meant I was closest to the door. So we get in the plane, we scooch all together, and they have us seated on like these long benches. So we're sort of like all backed up, squished how we're gonna jump out of the plane. There's these two benches, everybody's sitting facing towards the tail of the plane, and we start to take off. And my paparazzi guy, I did what I usually do. I put my hands up as high as I could, which I think was like about here. It looks kind of funny on the video because there's not a lot of headroom. I put my hands up, my paparazzi guy happened to turn around and start laughing. And so I was like, yeah, let's go. I was so excited. And then we hit a certain altitude. I don't know what it was exactly. I just know there was this moment where I started to, my butthole clenched and my whole body, and my breathing wasn't properly regulated. I started the freak out, and I can stop this. I can tell them I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't do this. And I was like, what is going on? I can't do this. I want to do this, but my brain was so loud in my ears trying to talk me out of this thing that I very much wanted to do. And then they open the door. We're not at full altitude. We're not even halfway there, and they open the door as we're coming out towards the ocean to turn around to come back towards where we're gonna jump, and he caught my face just going, "Oh my god." This is in Will Smith's video, he goes, "They open the door and you realize you've never been on a plane with an open door before." And I just was holy shit, what the hell am I doing? The door is open. I could just fall out of the plane. I didn't fall out of the plane until later. And then 10 minutes later, they're starting to connect me to my tandem guy, and he's rerunning through the instructions with me. And then they give the green light, and the two individual jumpers go. Oh my gosh. I just remember watching them just like they did this sort of one, two. Oh, my heart. My heart just like went down into my stomach, and my brain started going, you can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do this, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. You just stay on the plane. And then the first tandem guy goes. And then the woman next to me goes. And the next thing I know, my feet are dangling over the edge of the plane, and I'm too focused on what I need to do with my body to be afraid. And then I'm in the air and I'm falling and I'm laughing. And I'm seeing the world from a perspective that I have never been able to see the world before. And I don't feel anything. I don't feel any stress. I don't feel any fear. I just feel delight. I felt like I was floating. I felt so in awe of being able to actually live that moment. It was incredible. And then he pulled the chute, and it was still incredible. There's something about that feeling of just floating and free fall, but the chute, just being able to sit and observe and play and do these different maneuvers and just watch myself coming back down to the earth. It was just the coolest fucking thing. And then I touched down on the ground. I got disconnected from my tandem guy, and I immediately started jumping up and down and dancing and screaming. I was so excited. Everyone was laughing at me. It was just, there's so much joy in that experience. And realizing that I have to go through fear and be non-judgmentally observant of my mind when I'm experiencing fear and experiencing that mind chatter, because I receive such a gift on the other side. Once I go through the fire of the fear, there is so much bliss on the other side of that. Yeah. And it's interesting how, in like a moment, in just a moment, everything that seemed like a big deal didn't matter anymore. Like everything just felt so easy. Yeah. So it's been interesting to observe how, just how I navigate my world coming back to actual reality, and literally telling anybody who will listen that I jumped out of a plane, because that's newsworthy. Because, like, it's just, I can't believe I did that thing. I lived through it, and I still can't believe I did the thing. It was incredible. And just observing how I respond to stress and interactions with people, things that would send me into a tailspin are not, it's that's not, I'm able to observe the thought process much more clearly and hear my mind lying to me, making mountains out of molehills, catastrophizing about things unnecessarily, and how much energy that takes up. Remember the night before I went skydiving, I woke up to use the restroom and I came back and was getting ready to go back to sleep. And then I brought forward the sensation of jumping out of a plane. Like, what would that feel like? And I freaked myself out and I kept myself from sleeping. And I was like, why would I spend that energy? That's like useless. It's a waste of my time. It's a waste of my energy to catastrophize about things that I can't control in the moment. So, yeah, like I said, I'm still processing. I'm still in this state of just slow, intentional, non-judgmental thought. And I can't wait to jump out of a plane again. So I would love to hear from you. What is something you would love to do, but fear is holding you back? Drop me a comment down below. And until next time,